All right, everybody, welcome back. Sam's Army, episode 2.245. We got a lot to talk about this week. We're going to start out with headlines where we'll do some transfer talk and maybe some Italian, growth decree chatter. What if will be Dear Leader Jozay related. Always good to get him on the pod. Premier League, we don't actually have domestic games. We have EFL Cup and FA Cup, so we'll go through that a little bit, and there's a little smattering of games coming up this weekend, so we'll touch on those real quick. Around the world, US men's national team January camp, and of course the Asia and Africa competitions that are going on, and will have a big effect on how things go over the next couple of weeks, if not months. So we'll touch on those quickly. And then, of course, stoppage time. Ivan Toney's best bets, where the overtrain is not cooking with thermonuclear gas at the moment, but hopefully we'll get back on track. And then, of course, everyone's favorite segment, GOAWs. Okay, now, time to welcome in this week's distinguished panel of beauties. But before I do, I'm going to give everybody, including the beauties themselves, a little trigger warning here. So I am at a work conference this week. I had about 12 minutes to pack. I flew in from Miami to Chicago, literally dropped the kids off, repacked in 12 minutes, and headed out to O'Hare, back out to O'Hare, where I had just been, for a flight out to California. Now, that flight ended up being delayed about 4.5 hours, so that really stunk. But point being, I did remember to bring all the important stuff, meaning the podcast, all the technical stuff and do the podcast. What I did not remember was to bring some, non-work related clothes, some like Sam's Army shirt or something like that. I got nothing. So basically, anybody watching on YouTube, so I guess maybe this is a great way to get some people to subscribe, since my ability to promote that is terrible. I'm going to, instead of giving the beauties this week, their normal introductory question, I'm going to let Mr. Mikey Fowler and Mr. Mitchell Goulet, aka Overtime Mitch, I'm going to let them just roast me in real time on what I'm wearing, because they haven't seen it. I've been in the dark so far. I'm going to come on the video and you guys can just have at it. Just let me, this is, I know, a one-time thing. I probably will regret it deeply, but you know what? We'll just roll with it.
Wow.
Wow.
Do you want me to give you like a full spin? I can't do a full spin.
One button down. He's really letting his hair down, huh?
Listen, guys. No tie. I'm not that kind of guy.
No. You're not that uptight. Have you heard the good word, Dave?
What is it?
It's not your outfit.
Yeah, I know. Now here's the real question. I'm not actually going to give you the right answer. What do you think I do?
Fuck if I know, dude. I didn't even know your government name until I knew you for like 2 years.
I know what you do.
Oh shit! Don't answer then.
I know what you do best.
What I do best?
You bring up hotel bar tabs.
I'm pretty good at that. I am pretty good at that.
You look like the guy who's just like, who sighs very loudly at the end of the bar, hoping somebody asks him what he does. Just like,
sighs very
unbuttons his cuffs.
That's good. We'll leave it right there. It was a very PG roast, and I appreciate that very much. And sorry, I just don't have.
How many suits did you get for free with that?
We got more. Okay.
You look like you kind of argue with the ticketing agent as to what boarding group you are, even though it very clearly says 6 on your ticket, but you want to board with all the first class people because you're wearing a suit and no tie and you think you're hot shit.
You consider business track on the Amtrak flying private.
Okay, good. We now we got a good roasted. Well done. Clearly boarding group 6, by the way. Well done, Mitch. You had to give that little shot in there. Couldn't even give you like a boarding group 3. All right, fair enough. I deserve all that, and I think actually I agree with all of it. But we'll move on. Anybody who is wondering what the hell we're talking about, you're gonna have to go to YouTube. I don't even know what the YouTube page is. I think it's like / Sam's Army or something. I have no idea. But we'll go on. We'll move on to headlines. So transfer talk time. We are knee deep in the January transfer window. Things have really just started to get going here. Some of the bigger moves, in fact, have taken place on this side of the pond with MLS players and specifically U.S. men's national team type players. So we're going to start there. There were three, actually, arguably four U.S. men's national team moves of note to discuss here. We had Miles Robinson, who chose to move from Falcons FC to FC Cincinnati instead of moving to Europe. I'm sure some people will have some thoughts on that. Brandon Vasquez actually left FC Cincinnati, headed down south to Monterrey in Liga MX. Interesting move. Georgi Mihailovic, he left Europe. He was playing for AZ Alkmaar after his stint in Montreal, where he was killing it. He came back here to MLS playing, and he's signed with Colorado Rapids, who actually signed another U.S. men's national team, or at least recent U.S. men's national teamer in Zach Steffen, who is, finally getting out of the Man City situation that obviously just wasn't going as well as obviously we would have hoped. So two big moves there from Colorado Rapids. Shout out to them after all the shit I've been talking. they're actually making some moves there. But let's start with Miles Robinson. So this is center back. He's been in the U.S. men's national team mix for years. There was a point there when a lot of people had him as basically the number one center back. Like they had him written down in pen as, our starting center back. Now, it's been a few years. He had some injury problems, but there was a lot of talk of him moving to Europe, and sort of people were excited about that. Turns out he decided to go to FC Cincinnati. It was a 1-year deal with a second-year option, which is also very interesting for a guy his age. Mikey, I feel like you might have some thoughts on this. What do you think about him not making the move to Europe?
We've seen the move to Europe not work just as often at this point as we've seen it work. I think if the United States domestic league continues to grow at the rate at which it is, which I do feel is happening, remaining still in order to maintain consistent playing time and cement your place in the national team may be a viable option. I've been adamant about this and testing yourself going the other way, and just like all the other things, I've been proven incorrect here. I think we've seen enough guys go somewhere and not get the time they deserve or need to flourish, whether that be due to biasy or circumstance or coach, whatever it may be. Sam's Army Instagram has cataloged several of our national team players' fights with their domestic and club coaching staff. So I think if you're in a good situation and things are working and you're already broken through, don't move. Don't like one of those don't anybody move a muscle type of situation.
So your first thought wasn't this is a terrible move for Miles Robinson?
No, the last 12 months have honestly swung my opinion on I've just seen some situations not work out well. Specifically, I'd like to point out kind of how Juventus is being viewed by the general public. Like Weah and McKinney are playing well, but there's still something about the way the world views that team and way our setup views that team that I don't think is very consistent. So I don't think it makes a huge difference where they are.
Okay, interesting. Mitch, any thoughts there? Miles Robinson to FC Cincinnati?
Yeah, I think a move to Europe is a hell of a lot different for a defensive player than it is attacking player as well. I think as a defender, it's a lot easier to get lost in the shuffle over there. And
really? I thought you were going to go a different way with that.
No, for Greg Berhalter, who we know he loves his MLS guys, to be front of face and front of mind for him, I think is a really big deal. It's also a one-year contract with two. I don't know what age that would bring Miles Robinson to at the end of that, but we're not going to rule out a move to Europe later after this contract is done. But I like the move. Stay home where your friends and family are. Get playing time, and like Mikey mentioned, MLS is growing at a rate that is consistent with a league that's only 27 years old. So I got no problem with the move.
Speaking of 27, Miles Robinson is 26 right now, so he'll be 27 after that first year and 28 after the second year, although his birthday is in March, so 29 I guess before the season starts. Anyway, I don't know. This one caught me a little by surprise. I really did think that he was going to move overseas. We don't know what deals were on the table. We don't know what the offers were. I'm guessing the FC Cincinnati made him a pretty lucrative offer. So I'm sure that I think one thing that this suggests is that MLS might be raising their game a little bit in terms of what they're willing to offer players, and specifically U.S. men's national team type players. So that's a good thing. I actually think it would have been easy. I'd probably say this as somebody who comes with an attacking mindset, but like I would have thought it's easier for defenders to go over to Europe and sort of get stuck in and just sort of do your thing. Whereas opposed if you're a flair player, attacking player, sort of a dynamic, creative type, it might be tougher to make the move over to Europe. Actually, that's an interesting argument that we probably could spend hours having, Mitch.
I think of somebody for somebody of Miles Robinson's caliber, I think he is an undeniable starter in MLS. I think if he goes to any big to mid-sized European club, there's a very real chance he's the third or fourth string center back. And that's kind of what I mean, getting lost in the shuffle. Attacking players, if they go from MLS to a European club, they are likely not starting. They're coming on in the 60th minute and they're ideally making the most of their minutes. Whereas if you're a defender, you want to go somewhere where you're going to play. And I'm not sure what European clubs were looking at Miles Robinson, but if it's any club that's noteworthy, there's no guarantee that he's starting. So that's what I mean kind of when I say he would get lost in the shuffle.
Sort of in a similar sense here. People were thinking that Brandon Vasquez might make the jump to Europe this offseason as well. He instead made the jump to League MX and Monterrey. And granted, Monterrey year in and year out is one of the better clubs, if not I wouldn't say the best. Obviously, Club America is up there, and they got some serious competition. But Monterrey is a legit player in the North American sense. I was a little surprised that he went there. I know that some of the smoke had been that he was going to head there recently, but I was hoping he was going to head to Europe. Kind of the same thing with Miles Robinson, though. Does this help, hurt, or neither in your mind, sort of his future with the U.S. men's national team?
I think it's kind of a lateral move. I don't think it brings him up or down the U.S. men's national team striker depth chart. I think he's at I think he's probably our fifth best striker right now, regardless of form. Like I think above him, it's like Sargent, Pepe, Balogun. Maybe he's our fourth best striker. But it feels like a lateral move for me. I think a club like Monterrey is going to get a lot more notoriety, like within Mexico. He's not going to get the world's eyes on him as if he were to go to the Premier League or go to La Liga where he was being rumored. But maybe it'll be good for him, in a CONCACAF sense, that he's playing more CONCACAF ball against Mexican players week in and week out. And maybe he's going to be good for those fixtures when we need to grind out a 1-0 win at the Azteca.
Good point. That's a good point. He's only 25 years old. So, in a year or two, he'd still be at or near he'd still be absolutely sort of at his peak, and a move to Europe still could be in the cards. Mikey, what do you think? Do you like the move to Monterrey?
Anytime our guys are challenged with a new indifferent. I don't know if there's a difference right now between how the world views the two leagues. It's as sad as that's become to say, but I think that's where I lay on it. Same scenario.
That's sort of a compliment to MLS, by the way, because Liga MX has been seen
big time compliment
historically, as at least a half step, if not a full step ahead of MLS. I guess I'm interested to see how this works out for Miles Robinson, Brandon Vasquez, because they're both sort of right at that. They're on the cusp of being, on the an absolute lock to be on the U.S. men's national team sort of roster. They're not quite there. They're right close to it. And if they had gone to Europe, and if they had, done well there, that almost would have solidified their spot. Either one of them or both. But they didn't go that route, and so we'll see how things work out. I'm certainly not of the mind that if they don't make the move to Europe, like they're off my list for US men's national team. I see a lot of responses on social media about that. Like, well, you know what, Miles Robinson, like, I don't even want him, touching US men's national team squad at this point. That I don't agree with at all. But we'll see. We'll see. Georgi Mihailovic heading to Colorado Rapids. It sounds, I didn't quite really get the backstory here, but he was not playing that poorly with AZ Alkmaar in the fall. When I saw, I watched some of the games, he looked like he was doing okay. And then you see on Twitter and Instagram people being like, oh, you just couldn't cut it there. I don't know that that's true. It sounds like there might be, some personal reasons why he wanted to come back to the US and that sort of thing. I don't know the full story on this one. Let's be honest. I am really interested to see what happens with this Colorado Rapids project now. This has been a team that's been just dog shit for a while now. And now they're adding Georgi Mihailovic, they're adding Zach Steffen. I mean, those are kind of, in a relative sense, big moves for MLS. And all that shit we were talking about, or at least I was talking about, with why is the Arsenal owner name escaping me right now after all the shit I've talked about him?
Kroenke?
Yeah, Kroenke. How could I not come up with his name? But after all the shit I've talked about Kroenke, I guess this is a double win. Maybe he's not going to spend more money on Arsenal. He's going to spend it on Colorado Rapids. Obviously, that's just a joke. But we'll see what happens there. I'm just excited to see Colorado Rapids sort of making some moves. And in a relative sense, I'm hoping that Chicago makes some moves too, because God damn it, we deserve some wins. Now, the biggest move on the other side of the pond so far is, it actually hasn't been made official yet. It sounds like it's absolutely going to happen. That's Timo Werner heading from RB Leipzig to Tottenham Hotspur. Well, that is interesting. That is interesting right there. Obviously, we all know Timo and his time at Chelsea did not go very well. He headed back to RB Leipzig after that. And by the way, back when he was at RB Leipzig the first time, he was a machine. I know his XG is always high. It's his finishing that has left a little bit to be desired. And that really let him down with Chelsea. He went back to RB Leipzig, and I think he started off really hot. Sounds like he's kind of gotten surpassed by a couple of guys there. So he was basically expendable by RB Leipzig, which makes this move sort of all the more interesting, to be honest. Now, I'll give you guys the first shot here. Mikey, what do you think? Is Timo to Tottenham? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you just not care? What are your, is it just great banter material? What's sort of the first thought to your mind here?
So when we get into a broader conversation about this transfer window, I think Tottenham is the most interesting squad in the Premier League right now. Just based on what first windows look like for coaches and managers that, earn a little bit of respect. So the steps that it takes to become, loved by a fan base obviously are deal with the shit you got, bring your own guys in, and then succeed with them. So our mate Big Ange has succeeded in step one, and so this window is going to be very interesting. The Timo Werner piece of it gives me a lot of excitement as somebody who's preying on the downfall. The coin toss obviously is he can either rejuvenate this player's career and prove to be, a guy that makes the most out of raw talent, which would be an incredible signing because he does have the talent. Everybody sees it. But it could also be the moment when this whole thing blows up and you go, why the fuck is Timo Werner starting? Why is the future of my club? My guy's answer was Timo Werner. There's part of me that hopes that it goes that way. And I think just based on the way my brain is right now, I think it's going to go the way of embarrassment. So for me, it's a very he's got to make a ton of moves to cover this one up if it doesn't work, because he's putting the first one is noticeable, especially a striker. So it dictates how your whole team's going to look. So I'm a little bit more. It's must-see television for a little while. Put it that way.
Now, I like this answer coming from Mr. Reverse Jinx himself.
Yeah, of course. I knew what I was doing when I was saying it too.
I kind of like this, that you dislike the move. I'm cautiously optimistic, and that's just sort of how I am as a person. So I guess it's just maybe I'm completely ambivalent at the end of the day here. Like Timo always puts himself in good positions, right? He's done that his entire career. It's just the finishing is just been so bad, or at least it was with Chelsea, and apparently it wasn't much better with RB
It was not.
Leipzig
It was really good with Leipzig. I swear to God.
before he got to Chelsea.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe so. And then he
When
scored
he
a
played as a
bunch of
second striker off Yusuf Poulsen back in the day, he was balling.
right. And this will be interesting because we brought him in part, or we're going to bring him in part because we're losing Son for a month, if not more, for the Asian Cup. So he's going to step in as I don't know if he's going to be sort of the undisputed number one striker. Richarlison is there, and maybe they could play together. I mean, maybe it could be kind of the same dynamic with him and Paulson being Timo and Paulson as a now with Timo and Richie. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, but on the other hand, you could have Richarlison and shit Timo Werner together. That could be fucking awful.
Oh God, I'm choosing to be optimistic about this. I'm not gonna shit on it. I know he did not do well with Chelsea. He's only 27 years old. I would not have thought that. I would have thought he'd be a few years older than that. You know what? I'm excited. I'm interested. I wouldn't say excited. I'm interested. And, Ange has done some magic already. And if he can turn Timo into like a consistent scorer, that would probably be his best trick ever. Mitch, any thoughts on Timo to Tottenham?
Yeah, if Ange Postecoglou is able to take Chelsea's sloppy seconds of an X and turn her into an absolute stunner, I'll be really impressed. That'll be a mark on his career. Timo Werner's shown us what he is as a Premier League footballer already, and like fairly recently as well. Has he grown a little bit as a player? Sure. He went back home to Leipzig for a bit, and he got his jollies in against Frankfurt. That's he got his performances in. But let's see if he can hack it in the big leagues. Let's see. Dual striker with Richarlison. Sure, let's run it. I'd love to see.
I mean, the band's potential from that is obviously off the charts. What scares me is that, in my mind, my theory is that you don't like. You can take all the shots you want in practice. You can have years of sort of experience in front of net. Goal scorers and finishers, specifically finishers, are born, right? They're not. I don't think, in my mind, it's kind of like you sort of, when you get in front of net, you either have the mentality that you're gonna think just do what needs to be done, or there's some people who get a little too excited, get a little too randy, and they just can't put the freaking ball in the net. And that's what Timo has been over his career, especially in the Premier League. And so my theory, if it's correct, is that he's not going to suddenly be like a potent finisher. That's just not going to happen. So, if he's going to put himself in enough situations, and granted, Tottenham and the way we play, there's something to be said for maybe we will put him in a lot of good situations. He's just got to score some, and he's got to score some early. If he starts off slow in the first, 5 games with like 0 goals, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough to come back from.
You mentioned Son going to the Asian Cup. He's going to have a tight window to prove himself. I think, like you said, he will find himself on the end of some creative passes, but he is going to need to net some early. I don't know what your schedule looks like in the coming weeks, but he's going to need a brace against Burnley or something to really get his confidence up, because if he doesn't score within his first 3 games, I don't think that fan base is going to be super thrilled with signing Timo Werner as your striker.
I think that's true. He's got to come out of the gates, if not hot, at least,
threatening. Yeah, just putting himself in the right positions, which we've said that he can do. So
yeah. So I'll here's our schedule coming up. So we got Manchester United this weekend. I don't think he's going to be available for that. Our next game isn't until January 27th when we play Man City. That'll be tough. Brentford after that, Everton, Brighton, Wolves, Chelsea. We played Chelsea on February 23rd. We'll see. We'll see. But I agree with you guys. I think the start for him is going to be key. All right. Let's see. Wi-Fi isn't. Am I coming through okay for you, Mikey?
You're fine.
Okay. So we'll get into the Asian and African Cup competitions and how that's going to affect things quickly and around the world later. So last headline quickly, growth decree. I know a lot of people probably haven't really heard of this, but this quote unquote growth decree is this thing. It's been in place in Italy for the last, I think, 3 or 4 years. Essentially, it's been a tax break for clubs that has allowed Serie A clubs to sort of artificially boost their financial position over the last few years. And that tax break, or the growth decree, was allowed to, I think, expire on January 1st. So, I think it's just worth pointing this out, because I actually hadn't even heard of this. I knew nothing about this until I read a couple stories about it. It sounds like what we can expect from that is what you would expect, that the January transfer window is probably going to be kind of quiet for Serie A clubs. And I think in a big picture sense, there's always been a lot of talk about the sort of structural problems that Italy and Serie A are facing. And, maybe this growth decree sort of helped, I don't know, paper over some of the problems they're facing. But we'll see if this has, down the road. It's going to take a couple years before I think we start to really see it. But it sounds like it's something that executives anyway over in Serie A are kind of worried about. So just something I figured point out. Let's move on though. Okay, so weekly what if time. Now, in the wake of news that Dear Leader Jozay is getting his own Netflix special, which, by the way, is a fantastic decision by whoever decided to make that. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. If you, Mitchell, were going to, be the producer of the next Netflix special for a specific player or specific coach, it doesn't have to be now. You could obviously go back in history if you wanted to. Pick one player or coach. Who would it be? Who would be your first pick for a Netflix special, a la this kind of, Jose?
So if I were able to hop in a time machine, I would love a all access documentary on George Best and his on the field and off the field life. I think that man is a fascinating figure. Maradona good, Pele better, George Best. Like that dude lived his life like an absolute fucking rock star, and I want to know all the behind the scenes stories of it. If we're talking about a current day player, I'd love more Mario Balotelli stories. I'd love more access, and I'd love for him to walk us through mentally what was going on in certain moments of his, historic career, because he seems to be one of the most misunderstood yet idolized players of his generation. And I think everybody and their mother that calls himself a football fan would watch a Mario Balotelli doc. And as for a coach, no, I think I'll stick with George Best and Mario Balotelli. Those are my two.
I like that because I think there's still enough people around who were, who played with George Best, or at least sort of knew him, and I think they probably could, with all the footage they have from him actually playing and that sort of stuff, they probably could put something together on that one.
Yeah, but it's not going to be nearly as cohesive as whatever this Jose Netflix special is, which everyone's getting a Netflix special nowadays. Let's stop calling them specials. Let's just call them documentaries. But I would love some real behind the scenes stuff of the George Best lifestyle. I'll throw in Ronaldinho as well, just because he's Ronaldinho and he has an aura about him that no footballer ever has.
And he went to jail.
And he went to jail for what was it? Tax evade? No, it wasn't tax evade.
Passport. Wasn't it like a passport issue between like Brazil and something else? It was something strange.
Can you imagine playing jailhouse footy with Ronald fucking Dino?
Yeah, that's the documentary right there.
Right, just do it on that 2-month period. That would probably be worth it right there.
Yeah, longest yard. I've put a lot of thought into this recently. So Mitch had some great answers. I'm not going to revisit all those specifics, but um, Anelka was the best doc I ever saw, I've ever seen on soccer. So I love the Balotelli shouter, like a forward whose irrational confidence takes itself out into its real life, like Nicholas Bentner would be a fun one.
That's who
Guys
I
that
had
just
written
don't,
down.
guys that just don't live on this planet, like that would be great. But as far as like actual answer here, I am really curious to see what happens behind the scenes of a highly recruited young talent nowadays. Um, somebody who's like gets that 100 million price tag when they're a kid on their head, and then you see how they're courted and how the pressures are different. And for that reason, I would love to watch an all access on Evan Ferguson for the next 5 to 10 years. I think
Wow.
seeing Brighton's Deserby or Deserby's Brighton, seeing how you handle yourself, seeing his nationality conversation with Ireland and England, there's a lot of it that is just very interesting to me, and I'd love to get a glimpse behind the curtain. So for my answer, it's Evan Ferguson for sure.
Now that's a good shout. I think first of all, that would be incredibly interesting. I think it even more interesting might be if you take it sort of somebody from like South America, like Endrick, because
Yeah,
that has
seriously.
some elements that might be even more, sort of potentially salacious and potentially
Your mind
questionable.
went right to his girlfriend's age. I know it did.
It did a
I know
little
you.
bit.
I
It
know
did
you.
just a little bit. But listen, there's other stuff there that
No, I hear you. I
yeah.
hear you.
And who's the one that went to? So Endrick went to Real Madrid. Who's the kid that went to
Vitor
Barcelona?
Roque.
Victor Roque,
Yes.
who just got his first start for them.
Did you see the picture? Sorry to go off topic. They showed him in the Barcelona locker room trying on his stuff, and on
No.
Lewandowski's locker was a one of his modeling pictures taped to his locker. His teammates were busting his balls and putting his GQ shoot up on the taping it to his locker. It was pretty
Yep.
funny. Good glimpse in the background.
I mean, that's fair. I feel like
It was very funny. It was very
you
funny.
should get your balls busted for that. Okay, good answer. Balotelli is a great call. I think off the bat, that's one that there's he's just such an interesting, and had such an interesting career. Some highs, a lot of lows, a lot of interesting dynamics with him, and sort of being an Italian and the personal stuff like that. That would be, I think Balotelli might be my number one pick on that one. Okay, so Premier League, as I said, we don't actually we have zero results to go over from the actual Premier League this week, though we do have some FA Cup games to discuss. One in particular we got to get into real quick. Arsenal Liverpool on Sunday. 2-0 was the final score. Liverpool. I don't know if that really tells the full story.
Zero does.
Yes, that does actually say a lot. Mikel Arteta obviously had some things to say after the game about they sort of deserve the game more. I have some follow-up questions, but just what are your thoughts, Mike? You go first. What are your thoughts on Arsenal right now? And I was going to ask you about the transfer window, that you can sort of play into that here. You can loop that in if you want. Like, the team is just not playing well and doesn't look like
I've played enough football manager to not overreact to a mid-season dip in form. Okay.
okay.
Couple things. Very concerning, the health record of our left back position. I know it's through no fault of Timbers that he's injured, but Jakub Kiwior is not Premier League standard left back at this point in his career. And I don't think that was squad rotation either, which is another glaring part of this conversation about that position. So I want to work my way up the field here. That position is definitely one where reinforcements, well, not reinforcements, just a bit of fucking luck would be great. I don't really like Jorginho as a combination player in midfield. I think his experience is great. Apparently, by all means, what's the Roy Keane phrase? What does he do? Magic tricks. Everyone likes him having him in the locker room. And then the striker, like, we all have to get there. But Arteta bought Gabby Jesus the same way Pep bought Gabby Jesus, I think, and that's with another option and another plan in mind, and as a stopgap and a world class player to hold the midfield or the position down. He has not been available enough to be considered at the level he was at City. not unfair to say, I think. And what happened the other day was just a young team compounding form into a couple of results in a row. I think this break is great. 13 days, get away. Guys just weren't looking and playing like themselves. I think we all know that taking a break from something, especially this sport, as most of us listening, I'd imagine, have played, when you come back, you're a little bit more creative or a little bit in a different headspace than you were when you left. So Mitch knows that of all people with the injury. So like when you come back, you all of a sudden have a little bit more ambition or start to play more like yourself than what your form has been telling you to do. So uh overall deficiencies everywhere. A lot of glaring issues, but team's young enough to get our support and as Arsenal fans moving forward. So no panic button.
All
None
right,
of
no
that.
panic button from you. Okay. Now
My
the
longest
quick
Arsenal monologue in a while on this show.
was listen, we need some of those every now and again. The thing is that you can't score, right? You can't score goals. So Mitch, like, do you need to get somebody in January, or is
No,
this just something that'll work itself
no.
out?
Excuse me, wish list wise, like, sure, love a striker. Um, as Mikey said, Gabby Jesus' availability has been his biggest downfall. The best ability is availability, and his injury record just hasn't been up to par with the rest of our front three. And I think a lot of criticism falls on the shoulders of Martinelli and Saka, but they are available week in and week out. And whether their performances are an 8.5 or whether they're a 6, they put in shifts. You can't fault them for lack of effort. You can't fault them for lack of creating chances. They may not look as dynamic as they would be. If they were, I don't know, had a little more rest. Hopefully, this nice window of nearly 2 weeks of off days or 2 weeks of no matches will allow them to kind of take a step back and see the forest through the trees and be able to approach the game with a little more creativity. Because up top, we look stale right now. We look incredibly predictable in the final third. We have one of the slowest paces of attack in the league. We're down there with City, but we don't have we don't have the link up that City do. Um,
Or they're only
to
Howland.
answer, yeah, no, he's that's a luxury. To answer the question, I would love a striker. I really would. That's on my Christmas list. But Arteta has come out and said that it's not realistic in this window, and that we're going to have to work with the players that we have right now. And I think if we, as a fan base and as a club, kind of buy into that and work out some minor issues that I think have resulted in some major results, I think we'll be all right. The results don't bother me nearly as much as the stagnation does in the final third. Um, Jorginho's not the player for that match. And like Mikey said, at the left back position, like Kiwior was meant to get a shot there because of Zinchenko's performances over the past couple days or weeks, excuse me. But Jacob Kiwior is just not it. He's not up to par with what we need in a back four.
Something about his name. I don't know if he could be like
You don't
that
like
good.
it?
Nah, I don't. It's just not it's like a handball name. I feel like he'd be a good handball player or something. It's just
It's
not
an own goal name, isn't it?
something about it. Just
Yeah.
doesn't scream world class soccer player.
One quick thing on Ramsdale and Raya as well.
Yes.
Ramsdale, despite conceding twice, neither of which I would call his fault at all, um, Ramsdale is still an excellent goalkeeper. And I want to revisit the fact that we signed Raya for 30 mil and he was immediately put into the team as the number one because of his ability to distribute the ball with his feet. Ramsdale has not only shown improvement in that area, but I think is willing to just hoof it sometimes, which is what we need a little more of. I don't think we need to build out of the back every single time we get the ball. I think it's okay to pass back to your keeper and to have your keeper hoof it up 70 yards and maybe win the second ball off your striker's head. Like that is an okay way to play football. I know we all want to play the beautiful game and we want to have 1-2 combination play up the entire field and have a 30-foot or have a 30 pass goal. But I think Ramsdale, with particularly that one low save, reaction save, I think he's shown that he is still an excellent goalkeeper, and it's a toss up for that number one spot. I would like to see him in more Premier League matches going forward because Raya has not definitively won that one spot for me.
We also haven't fully signed him yet, so I've seen a lot of chatter about
Yeah.
people killing the loan in order to fund a move for a striker. Don't think that's going to happen. But
I don't think he's been bad enough for that to happen. Like
no,
but
in a perfect world, getting rid of him when you have Ramsdale there.
It's a baffling signing timing, knowing that, you know, Balogun sold for 40 million and the guy that Arteta likes must be north of 80-90 million pounds if he's getting rid of these players at that price tag. So to spend already low available funds on a keeper that he loves, I understand circumstance says the right time to buy, but we don't have to talk about owners, but like Chelsea are spending what and we're spending what, and like it just doesn't it aggravates me slightly that our limited funding was used to fund a position we liked as a team.
So a couple quick things here before we move on. So this whole like the people have fallen in love with keepers always playing out of the back. It's one of those sort of big picture things that I hate almost as much as
I just know you're the guy at the bar that's like, just fucking kick it.
No, but there is a time and a place for that. And we've gotten away from it. We've gotten into this point where like keepers need to play it out of the back every single time to prove that they can. That's great if you really want to do that. And Ederson and, whoever they do that. But like, I think it ends up costing a lot. Listen, you got to just know yourself. You got to know your keeper. You're costing yourself goals over sort of some romanticized thought of what you want keepers to be. Like maybe in 20 years when keepers have grown up from day one being like field players and sort of playing it out of the back their whole career and their whole life, then maybe we'll get that. We're not there yet. We're still in this sort of transition period where there's a lot of keepers out there who did not grow up playing it out of the back, and they're shot stoppers. Let them fucking kick it long. Let them do it. You're just costing yourself goals. It's just one of those big picture things, like the fact we've gotten away from two strikers that I just have a little bit of a bone to pick with the entire soccer community. But whatever, we'll get into that again at some other point. All right, anything else here? I think we're pretty much done. I mean, listen, the FA Cup, I'm interested, but like once we get to it, it's only once we get to a certain point. We're still at the third round, the fourth round, moving into the fourth round.
Nobody ever cares. Nobody even cares about it.
It's a little too early, and we got this.
Hey, you got City next, so.
Oh yeah, did you guys get
at home?
Ooh, that'll be interesting. Then the EFL Cup, we're actually now in the semifinal. I just can't be bothered with the EFL Cup. Period. Like I just almost kind of dislike it. Not even like I don't care. It's like I almost dislike it. In this day and age where there's so many games and so many competitions, this feels manufactured. I don't give a shit about it. I wish they would get rid of it. Anyway, but we still have the semifinals. Middlesbrough and Chelsea are playing on Tuesday, Liverpool, Fulham on Wednesday, and then there's a return leg. Jesus Christ, do we really need a freaking return leg in this? That's the following week. So anyway, that's what's coming up on the EFL Cup side. We have some FA Cup games, replays and everything. There is a smattering of Premier League games. We're not going to do power rankings this week because we're in the middle of this FA Cup, EFL Cup, stuff. So we're not going to get into that, but there is a smattering of Premier League games. And as we'll get when we get to best bets, by the way, the whole world is opening back up for us this weekend in terms of like the overtrain, by the way. So get excited. But on the Premier League side, what are the games here? So it starts with Friday. So the game, this is like a 6-pointer at the bottom, big 6-pointer for the Burnley hosting Luton. That game was supposed to be played on Monday, but because of somebody has to play a FA Cup replay. So they moved the game from Monday to Friday. Burnley and Luton. I know we don't have much to say about that, but that game is huge. If Burnley doesn't win that game, I just think that maybe they're done. Burnley's done. They're going back down. Maybe they'll stick with company. I hope they do. But I just don't think that they're going to stick around if they don't win that game.
They're both going down.
Well, I think Luton's going down for sure. Even though they've been much better. Let's give them a little credit. They've been much better than we were expecting. Mm-hmm. But I still think they're dead and dusted. I think Burnley, if they don't win this game, they're gone. It's surprising. There's actually some really good games this weekend. There's only a couple of them, but they're all pretty high quality. So on Saturday, we got a London derby, Chelsea hosting Fulham, followed. And so I'm on the West Coast right now, and I'm looking at the time. It's 4:30 kickoff. Good Lord, how do these people
did that for 5 years?
Good Lord, how do you people live like this? I thought 6:30 was
did it for a couple of years too. It's just tough being a Premier League fan on the West Coast.
Oh, good Lord. So that the Chelsea Fulham game is the early game on Saturday, followed by Newcastle hosting Man City.
That's not a good game.
I mean, it would have been 3 months ago or 8 months ago.
It's gonna be a fucking bloodbath.
You think it's gonna be a bloodbath? Yeah, very well could be.
Sunday every way.
Sunday
that's gonna be Kevin's return to the Premier League. Yeah,
every way.
Oh, is he back? I thought that he's practicing.
Is he back?
He subbed in. He subbed in the FA Cup tie.
He will assisted a goal.
Yeah, within like 2-3 minutes. He's gonna implement his will in this game.
Yep.
He came back with who was the Frankie de Jong? He came back with that Frankie de Jong haircut, by the way.
He looks great.
He does look pretty good. He looks kind of scary. He's gonna come back. Yeah. I think we talked about this last week. Mitch said it. Like, we could talk about City not being City or whatever, but now they're about to get Kevin De Bruyne back.
All of the Newcastle poundage this weekend.
Yeah. Then on Sunday, we got Everton hosting Aston Villa, with Everton sort of being a newly revived, sort of whatever. They're alive again, and revitalized. That's the word I was going for. A newly revitalized club, and Aston Villa just being Aston Villa. That'll be a good game. Then followed by Manchester United and Tottenham, which is always a fun game. And we'll talk about best bets and overs in a little bit. But yeah, Manchester United and Arsenal, or Manchester United and Tottenham. I said Arsenal because Arsenal's the next game on January 20th. So, I mean, that's actually in terms of the games, there's not many, but it's kind of high quality, the games themselves. So I'm pretty excited about those games. Manchester United and Tottenham, I just don't know if we're there yet. Like, I know it's good time. It's always a good time to catch Manchester United these days, but I don't know. This doesn't feel like the time. It feels like a good time to catch Tottenham, even though we play well here and there. It's just, we have too many injuries, too many suspensions. There's going to be a lot of goals in that. Any of those games catch your eye, or should we move on to rest of the world?
You can move on to that.
Yeah. All right. Round the world time. Quickly on some of these points we're going to touch on. So the clubs most affected by the Asian and Afcon tournaments that are going on right now. There's there's a list that was going around of the players from each team or each club that is going to be gone for this. And it's actually pretty interesting because there's some clubs who have absolutely nobody leaving. And I don't know if they were strategic about their transfer moves. If they were, well done to them. But teams like Manchester City and Newcastle, 0. They're losing 0 players for this. Burnley as well. Then there's teams like Nottingham Forest, who's losing, I think, 6 players from Nottingham Forest. That is going to be tough. Wolves is losing 4. Manchester United losing 3. Brighton 3. Brentford 4. That is, Nottingham Forest is going to have a tough time. I know they have a huge roster because they, brought in 1 million players over the course of since they got up in the Premier League. But that is a lot of players to be losing. In terms of the specific players, Tottenham losing Son is absolutely huge. Liverpool losing Salah is he's been the best player in the league. I think. Can we say that so far this season in terms of like players who have been there all season? No De Bruyne, no Erling Haaland for a lot of the season. Like Salah has been incredible. You guys, Arsenal, actually, you guys kind of dodged a bullet there. Thomas, you're losing
Partey when Thomas Partey is in prison, so
right, and El Nene, you're losing him as well. So yeah, Brighton are losing some big players. Brentford, as I said, losing 4. So it'll be interesting to see. And we don't know how long these players are going to be gone, right? Salah could be back in 3 or 4 weeks, I think minimum, but he could also be gone as long as like 2 months, which would be, I mean, that's a huge difference for, any team, let alone with or without Mo Salah. The other thing, January camp. So this is the camp that everybody sort of makes fun of year to year. These players, they don't belong there. First of all, this is not about bringing in first team players. People, chill out. This is about bringing in some youth, bringing in some MLS players, giving them a shot, giving them a look at what the national team is all about. There's some young guys. Actually, it's a lot of young guys here. I know I saw a lot of people on Twitter complaining that they didn't bring in enough people who are likely going to be involved in the Olympic squad, which, to be fair, that's a fair complaint. But there's a lot of guys here that it'll be good to give them sort of their first look. I know, Mitch, you were looking at some of the names. Jack McGlynn, I believe, is one you brought up, and I know that he's one that we've talked about in the past. I don't know. Any thoughts on the January camp roster here, Mitch?
No, January camps don't move me all that much, especially with friendlies. Take a look here. Excuse me.
That's right, because look, there's one game that goes along with this camp. We're playing Slovenia on the 20th.
Not a bad team.
Diego Luna minutes. Diego Luna is always fun to watch. Like seeing him getting called up. Cade Cowell, I heard was a name that was being swirled around in transfer rumors. I would love to see him make the leap in MLS this year and then make a move over to Europe. Timothy Tillman, I don't know if that is he related to Malik?
Yes,
I don't know
his older brother.
Is he?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Love that. Joshua Atencio is a kid that I saw play when he was probably like 12 or 13 at a GA Cup once, and he played for Seattle. He was visibly one of the best players on the field. Just more mature. Always seemed to have time on the ball. He's an exciting one. Everyone else, good.
Yeah, there's a lot of young guys here. Like I
love Tolkien. John Tolkien, is another guy that I'd like to see make the MLS jump this year and really be a leader in that New York Red Bulls back line, and then eventually move over to Europe as well. But it's a January transfer window, or it's a January camp.
That's fair. I mean, there's some names on here that they could be, players to watch and be sort of fringe players for 2024 or 2026. I mean, let alone 2030. I mean, like guys like Duncan McGuire is just a complete sort of wild card, right? He's like coming out of college. He didn't go the route that that everybody wants to see the flashy strikers, go over to Europe early on. He came out from college. He played really well in his rookie year for Orlando. So, I'm glad he's getting a call up. Brian White, people don't talk about Brian White like at all because he's up in Vancouver and like nobody, I don't know. We don't see their games and we don't really talk, but like he's been really good for quite a while now. I'm glad he's getting a call in. Aiden Morris is a player that really sort of shot to, into the mainstream when he got called in kind of early by Berhalter. And I know that his camp, I think it was about a year ago or last summer, it did not go well and he left early. And obviously that left a bad taste in people's mouths, even though I think it was a personal issue that honestly, I don't know what happened. And I don't know if anybody does. I'm glad he's getting another call in. I feel like I saw a lot of people on Twitter sort of saying that he's like, his ceiling is not very high. Like, chill out. like these guys are young. We don't know exactly what they can bring to the table. They play well, and they're Diego Luna, another one. Like these are guys that people are excited about. So just chill out with all the anger and the madness about January camp. It's not worth getting upset about. Okay, there we go with Around the World. Now we'll head to stoppage time.
Wait, sorry, one more thing, rest of world, just to talk about meaningless games. Spain, or in Spain, Real Madrid plays Atletico in the Spanish Cup semifinal on Wednesday in Saudi Arabia. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows that game's happening.
Yeah, that's fair point. Fair point. We talked about this because we talked about it when the Turkish Super Cup sort of blew up in everybody's face. The fact that Italy and Spain are also playing, their Super Cups over there.
So ridiculous. But anyway,
it is pretty ridiculous. But I'm glad you pointed that out because it is worth at least knowing. Okay. Let's see. So next we got, by the way, I had to let somebody in our front gate. Sorry about that. Finally, stoppage time. Ivan Toney's best bets. Like I said, not the best week last week. We went 2 for 5. Started out hot, got a Wednesday game in Greece, right? And then finished up strong on Sunday and got the French Coupe de Monde or whatever game between Lens and Monaco. Every game in the middle there did not go well. In Australia, the A-League, I've been talking about this for months at this point, how much in love I am with the A-League. The A-League has been screwing me lately. I don't know what's going on, but I'm not going to quit it. I am not going to quit it. I'll tell you that right now. So I'll give you a quick 5-a-side overtrain. I'm not gonna pump the tires so much coming off of a 2 for 5 week as I do when I come off of a much better week. But I am excited about some of these games, and a couple of them I'll actually point them out. I love. So we're going to start out on Wednesday. We got Chesterfield hosting Gateshead. That's the National League in England. Thursday, this is a team, MacArthur, A-League team that has been just screwing me left and right. But you know what? I'm gonna stick with them. I'm gonna give them another shot. MacArthur is hosting Western United. Western United stinks. They stink out loud. I think MacArthur should score at least 3 goals themselves. So we'll see. That's on Thursday. Friday, going back to Old Faithful, Cambuur in the Eerste Divisie. They never let me down. A-League is screwing me, so we're going to go right back to Cambuur in the Eerste Divisie. They're hosting Maastricht, and that has a lot of goals in it. Here's a game I love. Grimsby hosting Notts County. Oh, yes. It's League 2 in England. Notts County, first of all, they're brilliant for the overtrain. They're like the poster child of what we're looking for. They get scored on a bunch. They score a ton of goals. When Grimsby and Notts County play, they have like 6 goals every game. So I love this game on Saturday in League 2. Grimsby hosting Notts County. And then finally on Sunday, so we teased it before, all these leagues are coming back. We got so many leagues, so many games. I really want to say United and Tottenham, because when they play, like, it's always like, it's a ridiculous game. There's like 4 goals and it's just fun and blah, blah, blah. I just can't do it. I can't do it this year this week. I will be probably placing a wager on them, but I'm not going officially in my overtrain. I'm going to go to Germany because the Bundesliga is back and they deserve a shout. And when Gladbach and Stuttgart play, there's going to be 1 million goals. Both of them get scored on. I know Stuttgart has been scoring out of their brain lately. Hopefully the little break did not, mess up their mojo, because they were feeling it. So there we go. Wednesday through Sunday. Let's go make some monies. Now, quickly, you guys, what do you got for best bets of the week? Mitchell Goulet, why don't you hit us with yours?
I got 3 of them. They're all going to be this weekend, and I like your Gladbach and Stuttgart shout as well. That was one that I thought about. I got both teams to score in Everton Villa. This is at Everton. That game I feel like is going to be open. I like Ajax money line against Go Ahead Eagles. That's 5 and 6 in the Eredivisie right now. This is at Go Ahead Eagles, but Ajax, despite a early season piece of shit form, they've kind of found their foot. And Go Ahead Eagles, despite a name that you don't usually hear much in Dutch football, is good this season, but they're in a particularly bad run of form right now. And then we'll go over to Germany. I like Bayern Leverkusen -1.5 against Augsburg. They are away in that one. They're obviously favored, but -1.5 will get you plus money. And Augsburg have not been impressive. As everybody knows, Bayern Leverkusen have been impressive. They are flying under Xabi Alonso. Put them all together, you got +580.
Love it. Leverkusen, they're still like the last undefeated team in
Yeah.
Europe, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good shout. Good shout. Yeah. The other games I had, like, because Mexico's back. There's so many options I had to throw in there, but I'm glad I called out some of the ones I was actually thinking of as well. Mikey, who you got?
Gonna keep it simple this week. Man City -1.5 at +160, coupled with De Bruyne to score or assist. It'll get you about 4-1.
Nice. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Okay, go is time. Everybody's favorite segment. Mikey, I feel like you got a smile on your face.
Yeah, there's only one guy I can go to this week. It's the 10-year-old caught on camera at West Brom vaping today.
Wigan.
Yeah, the kid was ripping a vape. He's 10 years old. I don't know what else you want me to say. He was just simply it's simply one of the more beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. I want to get it exact, or the Wigan kid, yeah. Wigan on his 3,000 puff vape. I'll send him to you, Sam, right now. I don't know if you've seen it, you've been busy, but it's truly just it's beautiful to behold. There can only be one kid, and don't let any doctor or anybody get in your head, kid. You look cool as shit.
We got a new vape god coming
This
from
is my kid right here. This is him. So that's the guy.
I love it. I
That's
love
the
it.
GOAW. I don't know how you beat that. Good luck.
All right. Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough act to
I didn't know who he is.
to follow, Mitch. But I'll give you a shot.
He was chiefing on that shit too. I love how when a camera pans to a crowd, the camera operator has one job, and it's to not pan to a kid vaping in the stadium. Yet it centers him in frame and focuses on him too. You got
Beautiful.
one job, man. Go find a hot girl, or go find like a fan screaming that's maybe of age to be consuming in the park, but just don't focus on the 10-year-old vaping. I got two of them. One of them's a cool one. One of them's a weird one. The cool one is a photograph of, and this is we can kind of mention this along with the January transfer window. It's a photograph of Syracuse playing a friendly at Bethlehem Steel back in 2018, in which Brandon Aubrey, the Cowboys Pro Bowl place kicker, is going up for a challenge against Tejan Buchanan, Inter Milan's newest signing, which is just nuts that those two would be competing at the same sport at a collegiate level together. It's just kind of a crazy football and football worlds mixing photo that I love cross sport stories like that. And then my weird one is very Afcon, which I feel like we're going to get a ramp up of these stories in the coming. It is Guinea's midfielder Molare Saila, who was not called up to the Ghanaian national team. Because why? Because he accused the head coach of stealing the jersey that Vinicius gave to him after a friendly, and he had the entire locker room searched. He still accuses his head coach of stealing that jersey, and because of that feud, and because of that disagreement, he was not called up to the national team. So I don't know who the GOA is, whether it's the player or the coach in this scenario, or the people that definitely searched the entire locker room for it. But we don't know where that shirt is to this day, and he's left off the roster for questionable reasons. So I love you, Afcon. I can't wait to hear more from you.
That's a great shout. I had him written down as one of my honorable mentions as well. Yeah.
Has anybody made an Afcon bingo card? Because I would do it.
Oh God, yeah. Afcon is amazing. Afcon is amazing. We don't give it nearly enough love. Maybe we'll have to ramp that up, as you said. There's always some just crazy stories and crazy plays and crazy results that come out of that tournament. So
even did you see Salah's penalty yesterday or 2 days ago?
Mm-mm.
off the crossbar, off the keeper's back and in. It's a nice little appetizer to what this tournament is going to look like.
I love that.
It's
I
the
love
best
that.
tournament in the world.
There's some
They're all
crazy
0-0.
tackles. Like somebody will come in with a tackle just like shoulder.
Everything is
shoulder.
1-0. Both teams to score? No. I might bet the whole slate blank.
Oh, that's great. That just got me more excited for Afcon. So thank you for that. All right. So my goal is I got 2 honorable mentions. Number 1 to the Indiana Pacers. Obviously, we've been a big pro Pacers podcast for years now. Shout out to TJ. We love the Pacers. But here's the thing. They came out with a tweet that said they claim to have the first jersey with a QR code on it. And that, my friends, is an absolute falsehood. I'm not calling you a liar, Pacers, because we're cool. We're cool like that. But you're fed misinformation, because Forward Madison, my hometown club, came out with a jersey. I think it was called the Friends with Benefits jersey a couple years ago with a QR code on it. And not only was that a jersey with a QR code, which therefore makes the Indiana Pacers not the first team to come out with a jersey with a QR code. Their jersey was just cooler in every sense of the word, because I know that like the Pacers, you can click on the QR code or whatever, you get some like extra content. The Forward Madison jersey, if you scan the QR code, you could actually send a beer to somebody in the stadium, like your friend who is at this. You could buy them a beer, which is just an amazing concept. And shout out Forward Madison for coming up with that. Hopefully they bring that back, because that was an amazing jersey. I don't know who came up with that idea, but we should build on that. That's something we should do more of in the future. So shout out to Forward Madison on that one. The other honorable mention goes to Gigi Buffon, who obviously is a historically good goalkeeper, not necessarily athlete, but good goalkeeper. Amazing move by him. He waited until like the minute that he retired to call for them to make the goals larger in soccer. just an amazing move. You've been playing for like 30 years. And the minute you retire, you're like, yeah, you know what? Maybe we should make the goals bigger. Just a beautiful move. I love that from Gigi Buffon.
Real quickly, does he have a point? Give me a yes or no.
No.
No, Mikey?
No.
Okay.
You want it? You like it?
No,
okay.
I was just fishing.
I hate it. It's fine. It's hard enough to score already. Or well, actually, that would make it easier. But never mind. It's hard enough. Whatever. I just don't like changing the big changes like that. And if an American had come up with that idea, he would have been absolutely murdered.
Kick the ball forward. Kick it upfield.
But I just love the move. They wait till he retire after 30 years. Be like, you know what? Maybe we should make these goals bigger.
I thought you were going to say he signed somewhere else. I was like, I missed that.
No. My actual go up for this week, though, is the Stadium of Light bar manager. So whoever sort of runs the in-stadium, stuff for Sunderland, because they hired, as it turns out, a Newcastle fan who came in and decorated their, visitors lounge ahead of the first Tyne-Weir derby in 8 years. It had been 8 years since Sunderland and Newcastle, who people don't understand the depth of hatred between these two teams. They do not like each other, and they literally live in each other's backyards. So first Tyne-Weir derby in 8 years. And whoever, hired the person to come in and decorate or deal, do with the in-stadium bar in the Stadium of Light, they hired a Newcastle fan who came in and redecorated the whole place. He put up Newcastle colors. They put up Newcastle sayings. They sort of papered over all of the Sunderland stuff. And of course, took pictures of it, put it on the internet, and, Sunderland fans were understandably incensed by this whole situation. This club was sort of under enough pressure that they had to put out an official statement saying that, they don't know exactly what happened, but they'll have to get to the bottom of it, blah, 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 blah. Just listen, I'm on the side of Sunderland in the Newcastle Sunderland war, because, I have friends, shout out Declan's Dave, big Sunderland fan. He goes over there for games every year. that's an L. They took a big L before they even got out on the field. Unfortunately, they took, almost as big an L on the field, where Newcastle just sort of dominated them, 1-3-0 in the first, as I said, time we were derby in 8 years. That's tough. It's just a real tough week for Sunderland fans. But the GOA goes to whoever made the brilliant move to hire a Newcastle, whether they were like an out and proud Newcastle fan or just a secret one. I don't know exactly how it worked, but that is a hell of a move. Whoever hired that Newcastle fan. And that's all we got. There we go, boys. Mikey, Mitchell, thank you guys. I know, but my schedule has been up in the air lately. I'm going to get back home. I'm going to have my proper garb on next time. I'll probably I won't have as much, gel in my hair. But I do appreciate you guys squeezing it in this week. Both of you guys, by the way, said Washington were going to win today, right?
Don't do this.
Yes. I mean,
just want to
this is gonna come out after the game anyway. So
absolute dick.
Also, I'm not gonna endorse this entire podcast is pro Pacers. Our Celtics beat the bag out of the Pacers last night, and we got another one with them in about 5 minutes here that we fully expect to do the same. So
that's fair. But we're spiritually I'm
pro TJ. I love me some TJ McConnell
and pro Pelicans for Larry. Like we're not. Screw it. We'll be pro Boston Celtics for you. We're non-denominational around here. Mikey, you're a Celtics fan, right? So we'll
Yep.
Or are you a Knicks fan now? I can't remember.
Celtics.
Okay. There we go. All right. Washington apparently is going to win according to these yokels. So you guys can laugh at them later. But no, thank you, Mikey and Mitch. Honestly, really do appreciate you squeezing it in, and everybody for listening. Or if you went to YouTube and watched, thank you. I love you. We'll see you guys next week. Cheers.